not dating for 39 years. Let's get into it. Okay, firstly, just let me ask everybody this. If you okay with it, could you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell? It'll be greatly appreciated, and it'll really help out a lot. Okay, not dating for 39 years. Let me go ahead and start off by saying this, right? I actually went on my very first date at the age of 33. Yes, at 33 is the first time I had ever been on a date. It's definitely a to each his own type of situation. There's no right or wrong, you know. Now because sometimes when people hear something that's not typical or that's different, they're associated with being wrong. But different isn't wrong, right? Wrong is wrong and right is right. And there's no right or wrong here, in my opinion. Is it to each his own type of situation. Now, another thing I want to say about that first date at 33, that is the only person that I have ever been on a date with in my 41 years. And this is also the only person that I have ever been in a relationship with, right? And it was really more like 40 years without going on a date. And this is why I say that. Okay, me and this person, we dated from the end of 2015 to the end of 2016, right? So with that being said, that's literally 1 year, but you know, it's 2 different calendar years, which is why I say haven't been on a date for 39 years, but it's really I haven't been on a date for 40 years. Now I know the next question people will probably ask is, well, what happened with the relationship? Why did it end? And the truth is, and I'm being honest, I have my speculation, but I really don't know. You probably saying, well, how could you not know and you were in the relationship? Well, the truth is, she didn't really get overly specific as to why the relationship was ending. You know, she did make it clear that we should go our separate ways. Now, honestly speaking, the reason why wasn't overly important to me. Not saying that it shouldn't be. It's a to each his own situation. That can help bring about closure. That can, maybe you can find out why, and y'all can help. You can fix things and this and that and thus and so, right? So I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with wanting to know why. I think the natural response is why. So I definitely don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to know the why. But to me, what trumped that was she made it clear that she didn't want to be. I mean, that she felt we should go our separate ways. I don't want to say didn't want to be, but that she felt that we should go our separate ways. And my mind was, hey man, she's saying that, you know, she feel we should go our separate ways, so let that be. And I was appreciative that she was straightforward and, you know, let that be known instead of just stringing the thing along halfway being in a relationship. So I appreciated that. And this ended on very, very, very good terms. There was no bitterness, no harshness. I'm talking, look, it was so quick. Look, this how good of terms this actually ended on. Like, we sat down, watched TV, laughed. And, you know, we broken up now for maybe like 10 minutes, but you know, we broke up. And we laughing, joking, everything is chill. You know, that's how smooth the breakup was, right? Hugged it out one last time. Okay, we gonna give each other a final hug. Boom. We continued to talk after this. Now, we were still broken up, but we continued to talk for a few months. And she even, I remember back then that I needed a little money for something, and we was broken up for months, and she actually still gave me the money for what I needed. That's why this was a very, very clean, cordial, unbitter break. So there was no harsh feelings or nothing like that, right? Now I know people will wonder, well, that was when you was 33, you're 41. That's an 8-year window. Why haven't you dated anybody since then? Because you say that's the only person you ever been on a date with. I will say this, like I said, it's not abandonment issues or hardening of a heart because of what happened. And the reason why you know that for a fact is because before I ever dated her, I hadn't dated anybody. So the not dating was before her and after her. So it has nothing to do with that situation. Like I said, it ended as good as a breakup can end anyway. What I will say is that This is more of a, you heard me talk about it in other videos, purpose and intent, right? Sometimes I talk about it with the sex drive. Sometimes I talk about it with companionship in relationships. You know, that's what we do on this channel, talk relationships and sex. Yeah, it's just me being purposeful about who I share the companionship with, who I share the emotions with. That's it, simple as that, right? And some people ask, well, do you even, what about talking? Do you just talk and chat to people? Even if y'all haven't been in a relationship or y'all hadn't even been on a date before? No, I really haven't. I haven't talked to nobody in that type of, you know, companionship, sharing my emotion type of way. And I'm not speaking against that, because before you go on a date with somebody, before you can get in a relationship with somebody, you do have to do that, right? But no, I haven't done that. Honestly speaking, the only time I really done that was with her, and way back in high school when I was 16. Other than that, there hasn't really been time. And I talked to the girl in high school. We didn't go on a date. We didn't end up being in a relationship, and we talked for maybe a month and a half, 2 months at the most. But that was about it. Throughout thus far up until this point, that's the only people I've talked to in that type of way, and it totaled about a total of 14 months out of the 41 years thus far. And like I said, I'm making this video because one of the reasons why I'm making this video, because people was asking about that. Another thing I want to say is that and look, there's nothing wrong with expressing empathy towards somebody. If you hear about a certain situation, being, you're like, oh man, that's unfortunate. That's, man, I want things to change. And, that's good, right? This is not one of those situations where sadness or empathy is required, because, this is a situation of my choosing. Me not going on a date for 40 years, me being a virgin at 41, me only having one relationship in my life at the age of 33, that was 1 year. Being single 40 out of 41 years, like I made in the other video. I'm choosing this. And like I said, it's just about being purposeful and intentional about, who you're sharing your companionship with, because, I feel like that's an important thing. That's it. Like I said in other videos, man, like dying a virgin. Check out that video if you haven't checked out that video that I talk about. I go into, it's a good video that you might want to give a look to if you enjoy this video or any other videos. This is something that I'm choosing. The reason why you're single, the reason why you haven't been on a date for 39 or 40 years, that's the thing, right? This is not a sad thing. This is not a empathetic thing. And there are things in my life that I have need or will need empathy for, and have that people express that, that level of empathy and sympathy, right? I'm just saying that this just isn't one of those things. So when you watch these videos, he's a virgin at 41, he hadn't been on a date in 40 years, don't be sad. This is intentional. I think this is a good thing, and it's definitely to each his own type of thing. But I talk about it in other videos, like times I've turned down sex, so I can get sex, right? That's another video you might want to give a look. Chose not to do that. And I talk about a couple of those instances in that video if you wanted to give it a look.